She thought moving to Chicago would bring her closer to family and happiness, not drive her into a nightmare she could never have imagined. From the first glance, the picture-perfect marriage of Jessica and Mark seemed untouchable. He was a successful software engineer at a mid-sized tech firm, and she was delighted to finally settle into a cozy bungalow on the north side. But in the dimly lit living room of their new home, surrounded by freshly unpacked boxes, Jessica's world shattered in an instant when she overheard a hushed conversation that was never meant for her ears. "You're mine tonight," her mother-in-law Linda whispered into Mark's ear, her voice thick with promise and a flicker of something dangerous. At that moment, Jessica's heart stuttered, her breath caught in her throat, and the floor felt as though it would give way beneath her feet. Karma doesn't rush, but it never misses. In less than a heartbeat, a beloved family member transformed into an unthinkable betrayer, and the husband she once trusted now stood at the center of a scandal that would tear their lives apart. If you were in Jessica's shoes, how would you react? Comment below to share your thoughts before we dive into the truth. Welcome to Karma Strikes, where betrayal meets justice. In this video, you're about to witness how one family's darkest secret surfaces and how fate delivers a reckoning no one saw coming. Jessica Taylor had always dreamed of a life filled with warmth and laughter. Born and raised in suburban Milwaukee, she moved to Chicago after college, where she pursued a master's in marketing at Northwestern University. During her second year, she crossed paths with Mark Reynolds at a mutual friend's rooftop party in River North. He was everything she admired: ambitious, intelligent, and charming, with a quick wit that made her laugh late into the night. After dating for 2 years, navigating the winding streets of Lincoln Park on their weekend strolls and sharing deep conversations over coffee at local cafes, they married in a small ceremony at Oak Park. Shortly after their wedding, Mark's mother, Linda Reynolds, retired from her 30-year tenure as a college professor in Boston and joined the couple in Chicago to help them adapt to the big city. Linda, 62, was well respected in academic circles, known for her work in comparative literature. She was warm and welcoming at first, helping Jessica set up their new home in Lakeview, hosting Sunday brunches, and advising on everything from mortgage rates to the latest smartphone apps. Their bond appeared genuine. Jessica saw her mother-in-law as a mentor, someone who taught her the best places to find authentic deep-dish pizza and encouraged her aspirations to start a boutique consultancy. Friends marveled at how close the two women were, with Linda praising Jessica for her business acumen and Jessica admiring Linda's wealth of experience. Mark, 40, commuted daily to a tech startup in the Loop, where he led a team building chatbots for local businesses. He earned a comfortable salary, supported his wife's entrepreneurial ambitions, and seemed devoted in every sense. Jessica's days were blissful. She worked as a junior marketing manager at a digital agency on Michigan Avenue, and they attended art exhibits at the Museum of Contemporary Art together on Friday evenings. The couple had recently purchased their first home, a charming 2-bedroom with a fireplace, and decorated the living room with framed black-and-white photographs of Chicago's skyline. Every detail felt so right, as though destiny had conspired to bring them to this chapter. Yet beneath the surface of this idyllic life, subtle undercurrents began to stir. It started with late-night phone calls that Mark claimed were with colleagues, and small expense reports showing charges at restaurants Jessica didn't recognize. At first, she brushed them off, believing in the trust they had built, until she witnessed a lingering glance between her husband and his mother that sent a jolt through her spine. But in a marriage, doubt is a toxin that can erode the strongest foundation. "Do you ever feel like someone's hiding the truth from you?" Jessica asked her friend Tara over a midday latte at Intelligentsia. Tara shrugged, stirring a dash of sugar into her coffee. "Every relationship has secrets, Jess. You just have to decide what you're willing to live with." That conversation marked the beginning of unease, though Jessica had no idea how right Tara would be. It was a chilly autumn evening in late October when Jessica first sensed something wasn't right. The leaves outside had turned fiery red and gold, swirling around the sidewalks as pedestrians hurried home after work. Jessica returned early from a meeting at the agency, eager to surprise Mark with homemade lasagna for dinner. As she approached the front door, she noticed that the soft glow of the living room lamp was still on, despite Mark having told her he'd be working late at the office. A sudden knot formed in her chest as she unlocked the door and stepped inside. Instead of the comforting aroma of basil and cheese, the air was thick with tension. The front door closed behind her with an ominous click. She called out, "Mark? Mom?" Her voice echoed through the empty hallway, landing awkwardly among the boxes of unpacked dishes. Her footsteps echoed as she walked past the kitchen, and then she heard it. Faint laughter, too intimate, too familiar to belong to friends. All sense of calm drained away as she followed the sound down the corridor toward the master bedroom. There, half hidden by the slightly ajar door, she saw a silhouette that made her blood run cold. Mark's arms were wrapped around Linda's waist, pulling her close. Through that narrow opening, Jessica glimpsed her husband's head tilted back as her mother-in-law's lips brushed against his neck. The shock slammed into her like a tidal wave. Confusion, disbelief, nausea all at once. He was supposed to be her protector, the man she would grow old with. And yet in that moment, the person she trusted most stood in the arms of the person she loved and respected. Her heart felt like it had fractured into a million pieces, each shard sharp enough to cut her from within. She stumbled backward, but panic propelled her forward, and the door swung open. "Stop!" she choked out. Both of them froze, Linda's hand cushioning herself on the doorframe as though she had been caught in a trap. Mark's eyes widened, his face pale. "Jess? I can explain," he stammered. But the room held its breath as Jessica stepped inside, her vision blurry with unshed tears. The air was heavy with unspeakable betrayal. "How could you?" she whispered, her voice barely audible over the thundering in her ears. Linda's eyes glinted with guilt and something darker, something that told Jessica there were no words that could undo what had been done. A column of hot anger rose within her, burning through the frozen disbelief. Mark reached out, as if to console her, but she recoiled, tears spilling freely now. "You were supposed to be a family," she said, voice trembling. "A mother and son." The weight of her words hung between them, suffocating in its finality. As if a door to another reality had swung open, Jessica remembered the odd phone calls, the furtive texts sending her heart pounding in the dead of night. Now, the horrifying truth confirmed every fear. "If you were in my place, what would you do?" she thought, though not aloud. The concept of family, the safe harbor she once believed in, had collapsed in seconds. She ran from the room, her sobs echoing through the empty house, as Linda and Mark stood frozen behind her, caught in the web of their own choices. Later that night, in the dim bathroom light, she dialed her best friend Tara's number with shaking fingers. "Tara, something horrible happened," she managed, her voice cracking. As she recounted the scene, every word felt like a blade twisting inside her. By 2 a.m., Tara was on her way, white-knuckled as she navigated the deserted streets. Karma doesn't rush, but it never misses. And in that moment, Jessica knew she would stop at nothing to uncover the full truth, even if it destroyed everything she once held dear. Jessica spent the next few days in a haze, lingering between fury and heartbreak. She moved from room to room in the house they shared, as though each object, family photographs, decorative pillows, her grandmother's antique vase, held a memory turned toxic. The smallest reminders triggered a cascade of pain. She avoided looking at Mark, who seemed to oscillate between remorse and defensiveness, and she avoided Linda, who now wandered the house like a ghost of her former self. Yet beneath her brokenness, a fierce determination began to take root. She refused to be silenced or dismissed. If she had any chance of salvaging her dignity, she needed proof, not just a moment of betrayal. It was time to gather evidence and confront the darkness that had infiltrated her life. Quietly, she began to document everything. First, she examined her phone, scanning through archived messages and overlooked apps. In a hidden folder, she found a string of texts from Linda's burner phone. Linda had asked Mark to lie about being at work late and to meet her at a downtown Chicago hotel. Jessica took screenshots of the incriminating messages and backed them up to the cloud. Next, she purchased a small voice-activated recorder online, an inconspicuous device she could place in the hallway near the bedroom door. That evening, while Jessica pretended to be out with friends, the recorder sat perched on a bookshelf, silently capturing every creak of the floorboards and whispered word. She felt the sting of invading their privacy, but each conversation she recorded was a fragment of truth she needed. Meanwhile, she consulted with a trusted attorney, Kelly Thompson at Thompson & Associates in downtown Chicago, to understand her legal options. Kelly, a sharp-minded lawyer known for handling high-profile family disputes, advised Jessica to document financial transactions as well. She suspected that Linda and Mark might be manipulating household funds to cover up the affair. Jessica obtained old bank statements, the joint account shared with her mother-in-law, and cross-referenced every withdrawal. Sure enough, there were wire transfers to an unlisted account at a suburban credit union, payments to a boutique hotel in Lincoln Park under a pseudonym, and charges at high-end boutiques in the Gold Coast that Mark could not explain. With this growing dossier of evidence, she felt empowered for the first time since she overheard them. Yet anxiety gnawed at her. What if they discovered her recordings? Or worse, what if they turned the blame back on her, painting her as the disturbed wife? Each night, she replayed the recorder's files in the privacy of her home office, wincing at the sound of Linda's voice urging Mark toward their hidden rendezvous. "You owe me this, honey." Linda's tone would drip with false tenderness, every syllable resonating with selfishness and deceit. At times, Jessica felt on the edge of collapse. She barely ate, struggling to sleep more than 3 hours a night. The once vibrant marketing executive had become a shell walking through her own life. Tara stayed by her side, bringing coffee at dawn and listening to her unfiltered rage. "You are not alone," Tara reminded her as they sat on the cold marble steps of the courthouse one afternoon. "You have evidence. You have the truth. And you have people who love you." A glimmer of hope flickered in Jessica's chest at Tara's words. She realized that although her family life had been poisoned, she still controlled the narrative. Consumed by a need for justice, she devised a plan to confront them both at a family gathering that Linda was hosting under the pretense of celebrating Linda's retirement gala, scheduled at a banquet hall near Goose Island Brewery. On the day of the event, she dressed in a sharp navy blue dress that made her feel strong, coating her arms in goosebumps as she approached the banquet hall's ornate doors. Linda and Mark were inside, mingling among friends and extended family, laughing as if oblivious to the storm about to hit them. Jessica inhaled deeply, her heart pounding like a war drum. As she entered, a hush seemed to ripple through the room. Attendees sensed her deliberate stride and the steely resolve in her eyes. She held her recorder in one hand and the evidence folder in the other. Tonight, Every word uttered and every document revealed would shatter the illusion of a perfect family. As she walked toward the center of the elegant ballroom, the floral arrangements and crystal chandeliers blurred into insignificance compared to the reckoning that awaited. "Karma doesn't rush, but it never misses," she whispered to herself, steeling her nerves. From the corner of her eye, she saw Linda's face paling, Mark's jaw tightening. The moment of truth was imminent, and there was no turning back. As the golden glow of the chandeliers bathed the room, Jessica approached the raised platform where Linda stood at a podium, addressing the assembled guests. Friends, colleagues, and extended family members sat at round tables draped in ivory linens, glasses of champagne shimmering like starlight. The band's acoustic guitar hummed softly in the background, and servers moved gracefully between tables with trays of hors d'oeuvres. For Linda, this was a crowning achievement, celebrating 3 decades of academic excellence and a career she had always been proud of. But Jessica's presence threatened to unravel every meticulously crafted moment. Clearing her throat, Jessica stepped onto the platform beside Linda. Murmurs rippled through the crowd as she held up a smartphone and pressed play. Linda's voice echoed through the hall speakers, intimate and unmistakable. "You're mine tonight. No one else, just us." Jessica's knuckles whitened on the device as the recording continued, revealing conversations that left no room for denial. The guests gasped. Some clutched their pearls, others dropped their champagne flutes in shock. Mark's face turned ash gray as he mouthed her name, panic in his eyes. "I recorded every conversation." Jessica's voice rang clear, steady, despite the tremor beneath. "Every wire transfer, every lie. Tonight I'm exposing the truth." The recording shifted to Linda and Mark discussing hush money to cover up their rendezvous. "I'll funnel the payments through this account. No one will ever trace it." At those words, the room went completely silent. All eyes turned to Linda, whose poised exterior cracked. A few feet away, Linda's long-ago sown confidence unraveled as she felt the weight of betrayal press upon her. Mark lunged forward, desperate to grab the phone, but a burly cousin pinned his arm back, forcing him to stay in place. "Stop!" Mark begged, voice hoarse with desperation. "Jess, please, let's talk." But Jessica held the recorder high. "There's nothing left to talk about," she declared. The projector screen behind her flickered to life, displaying scanned bank statements showing transfers totaling over $50,000 to a shell account in Oak Park. Photos of Linda and Mark stepping out of a taxi behind a Windy City hotel flashed next, Linda's sunglasses sliding down her nose as she smiled at her son. Whispers filled the room, some sympathetic toward Jessica, others struggling to process the disintegration of what they believed was an unbreakable family. In the front row, Tara blinked back tears, proud of her friend's courage. And then came the first twist. Just as Jessica thought she had revealed everything, her phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. She paused the recording, her pulse racing, and opened the text. "Check page 47 of the original bank ledger. You'll find something you didn't expect." Confusion flickered across her face, replaced quickly by determination. She opened her evidence folder and retrieved the ledger, a thick stack of cream-colored pages from the Reynolds family safe. Flipping to page 47, she found a note in Linda's flowing handwriting, a ledger entry indicating a transfer of $100,000 to a trust in Mark's name. Money that had come from an insurance policy Linda took out on her late husband. Money that Mark stood to inherit if Linda died before him. Her breath caught as she realized the second twist. This had never been about passion alone. It was a premeditated scheme to secure a fortune. As she read the entry aloud, October 3rd, transfer $100,000 from Lloyd Reynolds' insurance payout to Mark Reynolds' trust. The gasps grew louder, and Linda's face contorted in a mixture of horror and guilt. Mark's eyes darted to the ledger, and he knew the full extent of their deception had come to light. The crowd tensed, and then an elderly aunt rose from her seat, her voice wavering but firm. "Linda, how could you? This is our family's legacy." Tears streamed down her cheeks as she stepped away from the table, while others whispered about potential legal consequences. Linda's trembling fingers clutched at the podium as she attempted to form words, but none came. She sank to her knees, sobs erupting from her chest, her carefully constructed world falling apart around her. Mark fell to his knees as well, finally looking at his wife with a mix of shame and regret. Jessica felt a strange calm wash over her as she took in the scene. The mother who betrayed her maternal bond, the son who betrayed his wife, and a room full of witnesses who would never forget this night. "Karma strikes when you least expect it," she murmured, recalling her own mantra. The attendees scattered like startled birds, some rushing to comfort Jessica, others lingering to confront Linda and Mark. The banquet hall's lights seemed too harsh now, revealing every tear and every broken promise. In that moment, Jessica realized her mission was accomplished. Not only had she exposed the affair, but she had also uncovered the greed that lay beneath. Justice was no longer a concept, but a palpable force moving through the stunned crowd, and as the police sirens wailed in the distance, called by a concerned neighbor who heard the commotion, she allowed herself a single, triumphant breath. The mother-in-law who sought to control her family's fortune would face legal fallout. Charges of fraud, elder abuse, and conspiracy would soon follow. Mark would have to answer to a divorce proceeding that Jessica had just initiated, and while no court could fully restore the years of trust stolen from her, the truth now lay bare, ensuring that karma had struck true. If you were here witnessing this live, what would you say? Let me know in the comments below. Weeks later, the aftermath of that fateful night had settled into a new reality. Linda had been arrested on charges related to financial fraud and manipulation. Her once proud career in academia lay in ruins. She was facing a trial at Cook County Circuit Court, where the evidence Jessica gathered would be the cornerstone of the prosecution's case. The trust Linda had in her own son was shattered. Mark, filled with remorse, cooperated fully with investigators and public defense attorneys. He admitted to his wrongdoing in open court, tearfully apologizing to Jessica and the community. He pled guilty to conspiracy charges and agreed to testify against his mother in exchange for a reduced sentence. It was a bitter pill to swallow for everyone involved, especially when the judge, an imposing figure in a black robe, declared, "In this court, justice is blind to relation or wealth," setting the stage for an unprecedented sentencing. Meanwhile, Jessica tapped into her resilient spirit. Though her heart still ached with betrayal, she refused to let despair define her. With support from Tara and a close-knit circle of friends, she began blogging about her experience under a pseudonym, Windy City Warrior, sharing tips for others who faced similar family scandals. Her voice resonated with thousands of readers across Chicago and beyond, providing solace to those who felt betrayed by loved ones. "The seeds you sow today will bloom tomorrow, whether you like it or not," she wrote in her first post, hoping her words would serve as both warning and encouragement. Within months, Jessica had taken on freelance marketing projects, regained financial independence, and moved into a small apartment in Wicker Park. The fresh start was bittersweet. She still missed parts of her old life, but the emptiness was gradually replaced by a sense of hard-earned strength. In therapy sessions, she explored the complexity of forgiveness, how to release the poison of anger without forgetting the lesson it taught. At one session, her therapist, Dr. Rebecca Alvarez, remarked, "You've shown that even when your world crumbles, rebuilding is possible. You are not defined by their choices, but by yours. As for Linda, she was sentenced to 18 months in a state correctional facility, ordered to pay restitution to both Jessica and various charitable organizations Linda had defrauded. The court stripped her of her retirement benefits, and she faced professional disbarment from any academic boards. When the verdict was read, Linda's once proud facade was reduced to trembling lips and hollow eyes. Mark watched from the audience gallery, tears streaming down his face as he realized the true cost of his actions. He would be on probation for 2 years, required to attend mandatory counseling, and barred from contacting Jessica under a restraining order. On the day Jessica attended the final hearing, the wind off Lake Michigan carried a crisp chill, but her heart felt lighter than it had in months. As the judge adjourned the court, Jessica stepped outside the grand courthouse doors and took a deep breath, letting the Chicago skyline frame her future. She knew healing would be an ongoing journey, but the knowledge that justice had been served warmed her soul. To those watching this story unfold, remember, betrayal can strike at anyone, even the ones we trust most. But truth, like a beacon in the dark, will guide you to the path of restoration. If you face a betrayal of this magnitude, consider documenting every detail. No lie can survive a diligent pursuit of evidence. Most importantly, surround yourself with people who believe in your worth when you struggle to believe in yourself. As for karma, it doesn't rush, but it never misses. If this story moved you, show your support by liking this video and subscribing for more true stories of justice. Have you or someone you know ever experienced a betrayal that led to an unexpected twist? Share your thoughts below. Together we stand stronger, united by truth and the unwavering belief that in the end, justice prevails.